Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Online State Politics. It's me, your host, Jason Craig, and we're back today with a new video. Today, we're going to be doing a 2024 election prediction between Donald Trump, the former President of the United States, and the current President of the United States, Joseph Biden. Today, we're going to go head to head between these two candidates, assuming that they win their party's nomination, which both of these candidates have pretty much locked in both of their primary races to be the eventual nominees for their party. A complete rematch from the 2020 presidential election that we saw almost 4 years ago. Now, Donald Trump was the current president during that time, and he faced many challenges within his own party between people not backing him and having opposition from the more moderate wing of the Republican Party. Facing the coronavirus and its challenges and the deep blue areas in the across the country and the unpopularity of the president and his administration with the coronavirus and other categories within the presidential administration. Joe Biden became victorious, winning that election handily with 306 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 232, a complete flip from 2016. The electoral vote count is complete swapped from Democrat to Republican. Now, moving on to 2024, we're going to fill out the states, the safe states for both candidates. And if you guys have not already considered subscribing, I urge you to please do consider subscribing today and hit that like button if you have liked this video thus far. We're going to be coming big coming into 2024. I am sorry I've not been posting. I've been very busy with Dave Wallace and his campaign for Congress and my own political journey as of right now. It's hit and miss when I can upload, but every chance I get, I will do so. So today, we are with a 2024 election prediction. I'm going to try and get a Senate and House prediction in the near future, so stay tuned for that. We should have a few more live streams coming up. So yeah, we're going to be coming back, but you guys will get a lot more updates on the Wallace campaign and our fight for Congress. We're in a Democrat +7 district, and we can definitely make significant ground in the district. So please help me, and I will please help me and Dave Wallace, and please support if you can. Maybe donating if you could a few dollars to his campaign. I will link the website description in the link below and in the cards in the right hand corner right here. Alright guys, so let's get into this prediction. So we're going to start with filling out Donald Trump's safe states. And these states include Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska at large, 1st and 3rd district, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah. Also, uh, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. And we're also going to categorize Iowa and Ohio in the safe column, something I have not done yet before. We can also put Maine's 2nd congressional district in the safe column as well, along with Alaska. So that brings Donald Trump's margin to 149. Now for Joe Biden's margins, we can see all the safe states. We have Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, the District of Columbia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, along with New York, Maine's 1st congressional district, Illinois, and Colorado. Now, we can move on to the likely states. Now, by the way, this brings up to Joe Biden's tally to 191 electoral votes. Moving on to Donald Trump's likely states, we can categorize Texas, Florida. I actually think that's all for his likely states. Yes, Texas and Florida. So if we look back here in 2020, Donald Trump won the state of Texas with 5.6% of the votes. Pretty much 5.5%. So just a little bit over. That's a likely margin for Donald Trump. And I think he can improve on these margins. I think we can get around a 7-point margin for Donald Trump in the state of Texas. As we saw in 2016, Donald Trump won it with 9 points. I think it'll be a little bit less than 2016 margins, but I do think it'll be won't be as close as it was in 2020. Now in the state of Florida, we have a completely different story. Donald Trump flipped this state from Barack Obama's hands in 2012. Now, in 2016, Trump flipped it with 1.2% of the vote in 2016. And in 2020, he expanded on these margins, winning it with 3.4%, almost 3.5% in the state of Florida. Now, I do think he will crack 5% in the state, considering his trends in the gubernatorial elections, Senate races last year, and the ground that Donald Trump is making in the state of Florida with, the margins that have been run up across the entire state in the congressional races as well. With Donald Trump being on the ticket, I think he will help affect down ballot throughout the entire country, winning many key races in the states, in the United States. Now moving on to Joe Biden's likely states. We are going to put Maine at large at a likely margin. The state of New Mexico will go to Joe Biden over 5 points. It's no surprise here. New Mexico went to Joe Biden with 10.8% of the vote, and I do think it'll drop a little bit less, probably be around 8.5 to 9 points. But nonetheless, Joe Biden clinches this state. By the way, I forgot to categorize Colorado will be at around 11.5 point margin. He'll drop about 2 points in Colorado, but Donald Trump won't be able to make up any significant ground. Now moving on to the state of Virginia, we're going to categorize this state as a likely margin for for Joe Biden, there. And Joe Biden won the state back in 2020 with 10.1%, so basically 10 points. And he was able to create an effect down ballot that brought the Senate race to the Democrat hands. Mark Warner won his re-election there in the state of Virginia, and they won quite handily in the Senate race or the House races in 2020. As we see here, Democrats did win significantly down ballot in this state. If we move back to 2022, we flipped one seat in the House. But most importantly, I think that Joe Biden will still win this state nonetheless. It'll be a little bit closer, probably a 7 to 8 point margin. It's probably going to be closer to 8 points. I'm going to guess it would be around 8 to 8.2% in the state of Virginia. But Joe Biden does win this state. Now moving on to the state of Minnesota, we can categorize this state as a likely margin for Joe Biden. I do think that he will win this state with around 5.2% in the state of Minnesota. As we saw in 2016, Hillary Clinton only won this state by 1.5 points. Donald Trump made very significant gains in the state of Minnesota, did very, very well in the Rust Belt, flipped 4 states in the Rust Belt, and he just was, or 5 states in the Rust Belt, and it was just a complete savage in 2016, winning many, many key races in states across the entire country. In 2020, went to about a 7.1% margin for Joe Biden. That was partially due to the protest for George Floyd in Minnesota. Now, YouTube, please do not censor me for saying that. So that was not said in any manner of criticism towards that incident. So moving on, we can go to the state of New Hampshire. I do think that this state will go to Joe Biden by a likely margin. I think it'll go to him by around 5 points, just shy of a lead margin. I think it'll be about 5.1 to 5.2%, just like Minnesota. As we see, Joe Biden won this state with 7.4% back in 2020, the same as Minnesota, basically. And in 2016, Donald Trump almost flipped this state, and Hillary Clinton only won this by 0.37%. And it's basically the same thing we saw with Minnesota in the state of New Hampshire. So I think that Donald Trump will do better than 2020, but it will not be enough for him to take this state. So moving on to the lean margins for both candidates, we are going to start with Joe Biden, and I'm going to put Nebraska's 2nd congressional district for Joe Biden in the lean column. I do think that he'll be able to hold on to this district, and it's really out of the hands for the Republicans. I do think it'll be 4.5, maybe 4.7% for Joe Biden. I don't think it'll be closer than that because it's really just about the redistricting and how far it's out of the reach for the Republicans' hands. The incumbent, Don Bacon, I think will go in to lose his re-election come 2024 in the House, but that is a prediction for another time, another video. So moving on to the next state, we can categorize the state of Michigan as a lean margin for Joe Biden. This state is pretty much out of the reach for the Republican hands as of now, with the state party being in complete shambles, as the state Republican Party is not doing a good job with messaging and wanting to win. Joe Biden won the state in 2020 with almost 3 points. He won it with 2.8% in the state of Michigan. And in 2016, Donald Trump won this. It was a flip from 2012, but in 2020, the Democrats were able to pick it off from the Republicans in 2020. So moving on to the state, I do think that this state will be a little bit closer than 2020. I think it'll be about 1.8% for Joe Biden. Donald Trump will make ground in the state, but it won't be enough to flip this state for Donald Trump. So anyway, a hold for Joe Biden. The next state we can go to will be the state of Arizona, and I do think that this will go to Joe Biden by lean margin. I'm going to guess this state goes to Joe Biden by 1.3% of the vote in 2024 in the state of Arizona. Now, Arizona in 2016 went to Donald Trump by 3.5 points, a much significant less margin for him than in 2012 for the Republicans. Mitt Romney won with 9.1% in the state of Arizona. John McCain actually did worse than in his home state than Mitt Romney did in 2008, but nonetheless, Donald Trump lost the state to Joe Biden with 0.31%, and I think Joe Biden can expand on this vote, or in this vote share in 2024, winning this state with around 1.3% of the vote. Now, for the Republican lean, I think that is all for the Democrat lean states. Down to the Republican lean states, we have the state of North Carolina for the Republican, for Donald Trump, winning this state with, I'm going to project 2.5 to 2.7% in the state of North Carolina. In 2016, Donald Trump won this state with 3.7%. In 2012, it went back to 2% for Mitt Romney, and in 2020, it went to Donald Trump by 1.3. I think he can expand on this margin. It'll be at least plus 0.7% from 2020, if not greater. So nonetheless, Donald Trump wins this state, holds this state with around 2 to 2.7% of the vote. Now moving on to the tilt states. These are the most competitive races in the United States of America. These 4 races right here. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. These 4 states decide the presidential election. Only 51 electoral votes can decide which party and who stays in the White House for these next 4 years. So starting off with Donald Trump's tilt states, we will categorize these states here. Wisconsin is a tilt margin for Donald Trump. We can Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. All 4 of these states will flip to Donald Trump in 2024 as of now. And I will start explaining right now. In 2020, Joe Biden flipped the state of Wisconsin with 0.63% of the vote. Given the trends in Wisconsin, given the polling, now I don't trust polling, but given the circumstances in polling and the leads that Donald Trump has in these key 4 states, and especially in Wisconsin, with the congressional district maps, the Senate races, the presidential, given it a presidential year with an unpopular incumbent president, I think that this state will flip to Donald Trump with 0.25%. It's going to be very close. It will not be a very large margin, but I do think that Donald Trump can pick off this state. 0.25% in Wisconsin for Donald Trump. Now, in the state of Pennsylvania, a very, very key state for Donald Trump and for both the Biden campaign and Trump campaign. But one state that Donald Trump must have to win. He will not be able to win without the state of Pennsylvania. As you can see, there is no path to him if he loses Arizona and Michigan. So nonetheless, Donald Trump must have the state of Pennsylvania if he loses both Arizona and Michigan, which he most likely will. Now, this state will go to Donald Trump with 0.15%, a very, very, very close margin, but I do think that he will win it with 0.15%. Moving on to the state of Georgia, this is a much not as close of a race, but still is a close one. Joe Biden won this with 0.24% in 2020, and I do think it'll flip back for the Republicans. I don't think Joe Biden's in the greatest shape to win this state again. But nonetheless, I do think Donald Trump will pick it off in 2024 with 0.7% in the state of Georgia. And in the last state here, in the state of Nevada, I do think that Donald Trump will win this state with 0.3% given the circumstances. In the state, the trends, the governor race we won last year, lieutenant governor race, and thus far, congressional districts, and the gains we made in the Senate. Not that we won the race, but the margins we ran up in the Senate back in 2022, last year's election cycle. So this is the map, guys. 286 for Donald Trump, 252 for Joe Biden. Donald Trump wins a re-election campaign, making him the second president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms after Grover Cleveland did this this was over 2 centuries ago. So, thank you guys for watching today's video. I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is my current prediction for the month of November, coming into early December. I'll put a new one out. This is a late video, but I figured I would do it while I had the chance. So anyways, guys, thank you once again. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.